the long-term development of any underdeveloped region in the world can only be done by people who are passionately involved and linked with that land. You and I can go into a place and help for 3 years, 4 years. But to be there for 50, 60, 80, 100 years and work on development, you need to have a special link to that land. So we said, fine, if long-term development can be from the heart sustained by people from that land, let us select children from an underdeveloped part of the country. We know that they would love to be and dedicate their lives to developing their land. But do they know how? Of course they don't, they're kids. So let's take these kids at the age of 11 and let them study at the best schools and colleges that the country has to offer. Then let them work. Then let them do their masters, PhD, whatever it is. At the age of 30, these children will go back to their lands and then work on development, whether it is as architects or as people who start schools or as people who are in the hotel and food and tourism industry. It's immaterial. But because they will know what their lands need and they will be in it for the long run. So it's such an idealistic long shot. Andaman's kids are now 25 years old. They are now in the middle of their jobs after having graduated. One is in the hotel industry with one of the biggest corporate groups in the country, working on sustainable development. One is the first design graduate in the history of the Nicobar Islands, is a Nicobari tribal girl. And the third one is somebody who is working right now on sustainable development in Bombay. So once they go back and they do this stuff, then we will really know whether this social experiment has worked or not. HEAL, on the other hand, it's much simpler to understand. HEAL works on preventing child sexual abuse. A little bit on healing. We have 81 survivors who've been with us between 10 and 15 years of counseling. But we have focused 90% of our efforts to go to schools, to go to colleges, to go to cooperative housing societies, to go to colonies, to go to clubs, talking about what child sexual abuse is. We have now adapted all our models, our CSA models, to prevent with children, young children, with older children, with parents, with administrators. We've made it into an online model. How can we do this online with adults? How can we do this online with children? That will be up and running in the next couple of months. Outside of this, the foundation's work hasn't changed. Our Kashmir kids are now in university. They're working online. They're back home in Kashmir. We've got all of them, as good as possible in terms of Wi-Fi or broadband connections to stay connected. Our Manipur kids are back in Manipur. They're online with the boarding schools. 4 of them are at Lawrence School, Sanar. 1 of them is at Welham in Dehradun. And our Andaman's kids, of course, are working, so they are working from home. So in that respect, our work has neither increased nor decreased, but the quality of it has changed at the foundation. With HEAL, it definitely suffered, and now we're getting back online.
The next question revolves a little bit around your latest venture, Bulbul. I watched it myself on Netflix. I found it super interesting and really new vibe in terms of what's usually put out. We're also wondering, in terms of your work now, coming back to the movie side of everything, are there any new projects that you're working on? And also, just as an actor, and to a certain extent, one does have to film physically at location. How do you see this, industry kind of evolving in the next 12 months? And are things going to halt for a while, blanket cold, or do you see things picking up? And do you have anything in the pipeline?
First, I have nothing in the pipeline. I had 2 series. Both of them have been cancelled. Not postponed, let me mention, they were cancelled. Post Bulbul, I haven't yet received any offers of any kind of seriousness or note as yet. So we'll see about that. Mm-hmm. I'm writing my next film, which is one of the most intimate stories I've written in my life. And I want to make that in the winter or the early part of 2022. So winter of 2021 or 2022. What's going to happen to the industry? There are two ways to look at it, and ET now is a good place to talk about it. The commerce side of it, which is cinema halls, prices of real estate, cost per seat for the exhibitor, for the cinema hall owner. The large chains will survive. Even there, some of the lesser performing multiplexes in amongst the large chains in some cities might have to close down. You would probably go with 6 friends to watch a film. Now you'll go with a friend. Because what's the point of having 6 friends spread between 18 seats? So it's, you might just go with one other person. You would have loved to go for a night show or something. Now you look for the show that very few people attend, kind of thing. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very difficult. I can't see small cinema owners actually withstanding this crisis. Without a shadow of doubt, once a vaccine for this is available to people like you and me, things will go back to normal. I'm not even saying things will limp back to normal. They will jump back to normal. But till then, it's a really tough time commerce-wise. Commerce-wise, within the industry, there is a large bank of working capital that's locked. Shoots that have stalled. Money that was spent on sets, on booking places, but are not being used right now. So a large amount of working capital of producers is locked in the industry, which is lying, waiting to be used. But the courage to start new projects that's also been hit. I'm not going to book Mehboob Studios for the next 3 months if I'm not sure if on the 10th day somebody gets COVID and my unit is shut down, or everybody is quarantined, or my lead actor starts showing symptoms and she refuses to come on the set the next day, or for the next 2 weeks, or at all, So these are very, very uncertain times if you're a producer. As an actor, look, we are instruments of what happens and what doesn't happen. I can only speak personally. If I believe adequate precautions are taken on set, like they would be taken on a flight, for example, then I'm okay. It's not going to get better than that, my friend. That's the way it is. Very happy to note that most, if not all, the film associations for artists and unions have gotten together and are helping those daily workers in need to tide over these difficult times.
In these uncertain times right now, a lot of people are gripping with the reality of their financial situation, having deteriorated a little bit. So what's your advice to them, and where do you personally park your money?
Well, I have 2 NGOs of my own. And so as soon as the pandemic hit, I realized that the worst case scenario would be that all our funders would stop funding. Our regular funders who fund annual expenses would stop funding. So the first thing I did, this was in March, before anybody else, I cut all salaries by 30%. I gave up the office space. We instituted working from home protocols and made sure that both NGOs had money up till April 2021. So those were hard decisions that I took in March itself. And I'm glad I took them then, because now a lot of my staff are completely prepared and completely psychologically happy about where they have been, where they are. Working from home was a bit of a challenge in terms of psychologically. The second part of your question, where do I park my money? I've never invested my money anywhere. I don't have any money. I've given all my money to my NGOs. I have no stocks, no shares, no mutual funds, absolutely nothing. I own some property, and the rest of the money I have been, I think over the last 15 years, about 77, earlier it was about 85, 90%. Now it's about 70% of my money has gone to my foundation.